And this is from the chapter. I heard it on the radio, I saw it on TV. That was never going to be a chapter in the book because I wanted it to be, my perception of things changed quite a bit, even by the time the first book was done. And there were so many stories, including my uncle's, about listening to the first ever All-Star game at a little radio in 1934 with my dad and another brother around them. And when Carl Hubble struck out Murderers Row 5 in a row, there just had to be a story about radio and TV. And this is Pamela's story. Most people fall in love with teams when they win. Mine lost. That's how I came to know and love the Mets as World Series losers in 1973. It was an early and valuable lesson that being a Mets fan meant coping with disappointment. In the early and mid-70s, the Mets were the best baseball team in New York. But as the decade wore on and the Yankees reigned supreme, I stayed loyal to the orange and blue. There was something about the upstart Mets that captured my heart. I credit my grandfather with turning me onto baseball. He grew up a New York Giants fan, but when they left for San Francisco and the Mets played their first couple of seasons at the Polo Grounds, it was natural for him to start following them. Not knowing I would one day make San Francisco my home and become a Giants fan, my best baseball memories stem from my life as an East Coaster and the hot, sticky evenings at Shea with my dad and grandfather. However, the one that will forever be embossed in my memory took place on 34th and 1st in Manhattan. I seemed to have great luck during college vacations. Most people went to Mexico or Florida, but I went to the doctor, as this was often when my respiratory system came under attack. During the fall midterm break of 1986, I came down with bronchitis, and when everyone else was heading back to school, I remained in New York City. It was here, in bed, that I watched the Mets versus Red Sox World Series. The Mets were the heavy favorite, but I was not convinced. I had learned my lesson. Besides, they were a bunch of knuckleheads and troublemakers, not the good guys from the Seaver days. They'd trashed a plane on the way back from beating the Astros in the National League Championship Series. Their antics were well known to all who lived in New York at the time. Though not a sports fan in the least, my mom caught some of the series when she checked in to see how I was feeling. She didn't pay that much attention at first, but with each game, I could see her interest peak more. By game 6, she was sitting on the floor next to my bed, watching, just in time for Buckner. That should say it all, right? For those of you who don't know what that means, here's how the play-by-play went down in apartment 4C. Game 6 was a must-win for the Mets. The Red Sox were 1 out away from capturing their first title since 1918. It was the bottom of the 10th, and the Mets were down 3-2. Gary Carter, the goody two-shoes catcher, singled. He might not have been as much fun as the rest of the team, but he often came through at the plate. At this point, the Mets' motto, "You gotta believe," ran through my head. Kevin Mitchell pinch hit for Rick Aguilera and singled. I could see Mom was getting nervous. I think nearly everyone in New York City was on the edge of their seats, but my mom was worrying about a baseball game? This was an historic event. It was Ray Knight's turn to be hero. Boom! He hit a single, scoring Carter, sending Mitchell to third. Just one more run to tie the game. Sox manager John McNamara changed pitchers, putting in the closer, Bob Stanley. On a wild pitch, Mitchell scored from third, tying the game, and Knight went to second. By now, the additional adrenaline was definitely helping me breathe better. On a 2-2 count, Mookie Wilson hit what looked like a routine ground ball to first. Easy catch as it may have looked to anyone watching TV, the ball rolled right through first baseman Bill Buckner's legs onto the outfield. Knight scored from second, and the Mets won the game, tying the series at 3-3. Both of us screamed, and we called my grandfather, who I think, above all, was shocked to hear his daughter, who'd never given a fig about baseball, so excited. The final game was almost as thrilling. There were a few moments when I really thought we were going to blow it, yet we didn't, and my grandfather, mother, and I were as happy as we were the night before. In the end, the bad guys won, but they were our bad guys. I don't think my mother has watched a single baseball game since 1986, but during that week in late October, she was a Mets fan, and in spite of starting the series feeling like hell, I felt much better in every respect by the time it ended. That's Pamela's story.
I remember that.
Wow.
You live in
That was